I mean, we are now all of these things,
Yep.
and we love all of those things about each other. I love the mom that I'm married to, the wife, the manager, but it also helps to kind of segment those things and look at them individually. Because, I mean, the
Yep.
reality is we're all a million different identities in one person.
When I'm with her, I just feel very good. There's just a wonderful effect of the presence. We're a unit, we're a couple, we're two people together that work and really enjoy being together. And it's just that simple sometimes.
Welcome to Dadsplaining, a weekly chronicle of all the weirdest, messiest, grossest, and funniest parts of fatherhood, hosted by two first-time dads. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brandon.
And this week, we are bragging on our baby mamas. That's right. We are celebrating our wives and all the awesome ways that they are crushing the mom game, especially here in the middle of quarantine. All the cool things that we've witnessed them doing. We're going to spend some time reminiscing on how we got together and all those lovely memories, and we're going to have some fun with it. But before we get into all of that, Brandon, if our listeners want to reach out to us with questions or comments, if they'd like to be guests on the show, where can they find us?
Please give us a like or a follow on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You can get us at Dadsplaining Podcast. If you want to email us directly, you can email us at dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com. And then you can check out this and every episode anywhere you get your podcasts.
Precisely. So, Brandon, before we get into the topic this week, how are things going this week in the Spears house?
Things are going pretty well. We've kind of settled into a new rhythm. We kind of talked about on our most recent podcast what the day-to-day life has been like. It's challenging. Spoilers. Sometimes it sucks. Spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's okay. But yeah, it's been going pretty well day to day. And so, we've just been having fun. We've been getting like more and more things over time, like ways to entertain ourselves, like a new toy, a new book, or something like once a week, just to kind of like keep ourselves from going too crazy. And so the other day we got one of those, I don't know really what you call it, but like it's like the little shoot that's kind of like a caterpillar that like expands out and they can kind of like crawl through it. So you crawl
Yeah.
through one side, out the other. It's like 3-5 feet long or whatever, and it's just kind of like that a tube basically that looks kind of like a caterpillar,
Oh,
and you
man.
crawl through it. So Noah was having some fun with that yesterday, and we found out there's a fun way for him to basically like crawl like just inside of it, and then you tip it up kind of vertically,
Mm-hmm.
and then that way he's sitting kind of in it all the way up, and he got kind of a giggle out of that. And then also you can sort of get it so that you guys can sit on opposite ends, and you can kind of bend it again so that you're kind of looking at each other over like a slight hump.
Yeah.
And he had a giggling fun time with that because he likes hiding and going into contained places a lot.
Oh.
So that was kind of cool. There's some adorable photos. Like it's like red, blue, yellow color scheme because it's Melissa and Doug, and everything is red, blue, yellow.
Yeah.
And so it actually makes for a pretty nice photo background. You want to help out your Instagrams
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
with that. So we were having some fun with that the other day, or I should say, rather, as a prelude to the episode, my wife, the mom, was
Mm-hmm.
having fun and coming up with all these inventive ways to use this device, which I just thought was something you just crawl through. And boy, was I wrong. You can play with it in a number of ways.
Uh-huh.
So a couple of toy hacks there for you if anybody has one of those.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. How's it been going for you guys?
It's been going well. So, there's one little thing that I have to celebrate that I'm really excited about. And it happens in every dad's life at one point or another. Last night I got
Number two? No. Okay. What?
no. Last night I got the first ever "I love you, Daddy."
Oh, awesome. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
When I tell you I almost cried, I literally almost cried. So
Oh,
I'll
the fact
set.
you didn't cry is amazing.
I know, I know. I guess I'm just dead inside. I don't know. So I'll set the scene. It's about 8 o'clock at night, and I'm getting ready to run to the store so that David has breakfast for the next morning. He's
Oh,
out
what a
of
thoughtful
bananas, and
dad. You're going to feed your son.
right? I know. So I get ready to go. He is watching Frozen in the living room with his
As you
mom
do.
because what else would he be doing right now? And I say bye bye, and literally unprompted, completely unscripted, he goes, Oh, daddy. Oh, daddy. Something like that. That is, I mean, I speak his
Okay.
language. I know that when we try and get him to say love you, it comes out ayo or oh.
Ew.
And it was a definite, it was a little muddy in his own little language, but it was a definite I love you, daddy. And I had a hard time leaving
Wow.
because I was so like
Well,
emotionally
yeah.
overcome. It was an intense moment, and it's a high that I'm going to be riding, I think, for several weeks.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, now that he's done it, he can do it again and again and again and again.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's awesome. Noah does this thing when he wakes up from sleeping where he will scream, I love you, mommy, or I love you, daddy,
Uh huh.
because he thinks, and correctly so, that that will get us to actually come into his room and wake him up. So don't be surprised if he starts using it for greed.
Yeah. No, I
And
know.
it will work. It works very well, as you noted. Anytime they break that out, you're just like, whatever you want,
Yeah. Exactly.
anything you desire. Can I stay up 30 more hours? Absolutely, if you say I love you.
Uh huh. Yeah, they are manipulative for sure. But that is
So
one of the
manipulative.
million things to love about them, I guess.
I don't know where they're learning it, but not from me. Definitely the moms. Segue. No.
Yeah, yeah, good. This is a good time to transition into this week's topic. So we decided to talk about this because this past weekend was Mother's Day here in the United States, and I mean, before we start bragging, Brandon, did you guys do anything special for Mother's Day?
We kept it simple. We did spend a little bit of time. Um, well, let me back up, I guess. Sorry, I'm doing a terrible job of this. So I planned zero amount for Mother's Day. I don't know about you, but here's how bad it is in quarantine, and I think we have to talk about it with that caveat because it's the only way that I'll feel better about it. And as you know, it's all about me,
Mm-hmm.
the dad, because I'm selfish. So I made my wife get her own flowers. I just want to put that out there with no preamble. Um, going to the store is an adventure now.
Yeah.
It's a thing that you don't do frequently. You do it in a calculated way. And so I was with our son. She was coming home. There wasn't really a need to go to the store for any other reason. So she offered to go by and get a couple little things. Um, and she was gonna and I said, can you get your own flowers? I know this is terrible, but please, like, you need flowers. Please go pick them up. Like, I wanted her to have them,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't feel more ashamed about asking than I did about if I didn't get her flowers at all. So, just want to point out there the links that I'll go
Uh-huh.
uh, to take care of my wife
Hey,
and the mother of her child.
desperate times,
So
man.
that's how great I was. But I did back it up a little bit because I also had no gift.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just really batting 1,000. I'm doing great here. Um, I came up with something to do. I
Mm-hmm.
just felt very limited in my options. Um, and I sucked at planning this out. So I tried my best. But what I did is on the day of Mother's Day, we woke up and I came up with a great plan for breakfast. And then to cap it off, I'm not making any of this up. I made her make the breakfast.
Dude, me too.
I didn't make her make it, but look,
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing. She's better at cooking than I am. And so I wanted to make her crepes, the
Mm-hmm.
little French, delicious, usually filled with like chocolate and strawberries and, other, fruits and things like that. And so I got the recipe. I made sure we had all the ingredients. I had it all covered, right? And I was going to make the batter, and I started doing that. And then when it came time to actually finish it up and cook it, I knew I was going to do a terrible job.
Mm-hmm.
Know how not skilled you are at pancakes and waffles. This is the same kind of an approach. You're putting a little bit of a batter that's like a pancake, but very thin into the pan. And I needed an expert to handle this if it wasn't going to turn out terribly. So I made my wife do the cooking on her own Mother's Day. And it worked beautifully. The
Mm-hmm.
crepes came out perfect. They were delicious. We ate them. It was excellent. So I think it was a solid idea, but I just wanted to note that I made my wife do all the things for herself. I made her get the flowers. There was no gift, and I made her get the crepes.
Mm-hmm.
I made her make the crepes all for herself. So yeah, this was a DIY Mother's Day, and it was a great time was had by all, I think.
Yeah.
We did spend a little bit of time, um, you know, with more or less social distance in place with some family, just like our immediate moms, because we wanted to see them on
Yeah.
Mother's Day. We have the luxury of being close enough by, so that was also nice to be able to see my mom and to see her mom. What did you guys get up to for
So
Mother's Day?
so it was almost exactly the same story. We so Ashley picked out her own gift and ordered it herself.
See, that's smart. That's smart.
But I did personalize it with a little note.
Oh, a note.
I think it was because you could put a note in with the order. I think the note was something like, "Dear Ashley, I saw this and immediately thought of you. I know you'll love it. Love, Ashley." Something, because I mean, she picked it out herself anyway, so I can't take any credit for it. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah,
Oh
so
my gosh.
and Ashley also cooked her own Mother's Day breakfast, but the reason being she knows how she likes her breakfast, and it's not the way I
See, there you
make it,
go.
and she's better at doing it than I am. She has become lately an impresario with eggs, especially scrambled eggs. There's a certain way that she spices them, and she cooks them to the perfect
Hmm.
amount where they're nice and fluffy. She uses
Yeah.
a little milk. That's a skill that I've never picked up. And she made sort of silver dollar pancakes to go along with it. So it was a fun day.
Wow.
My extra gift to her, which is something I'm still not done with, but it's something I'm working on, is trying to power through that honeydew list that we all have.
There you
Now
go.
that we're
Yeah.
home more and have some time to do it. I started with fixing a wobbly chair. Haven't gotten much farther than that, but on my list to go, I need to fix some leaky pipes in the bathroom, repair a toilet paper holder that fell off. I
Hmm.
am embarrassed to say about 4 years ago and haven't gotten around to fixing it.
That's great.
And to finish the patio project that we've been working on for the past several
All
weeks
right.
that we've made a lot of cool progress on. So, a lot to be excited about. Definitely not a banner year for Mother's Day. And,
Hmm.
I have no excuse because it's not like I've been, uber busy with work. Other than, that's the problem is that, you have to make decisions when you're choosing to go outside of the house. You can only go one at a time. You have to be more decisive on how long you're going to spend in a store, which stores you're going to. um,
Yeah.
you know and then the other thing we did was we made a visit to see my parents for the first time in 8 weeks, and we saw her parents
Great.
as well. And had
Excellent.
yeah, it was a really nice reunion, and again, something that you do cautiously, and it looks different than it normally does, but
Yep.
it's still
Yep.
really sweet. And I mean, I want to shout out my parents. They went the extra mile, literally. My grandmother on my dad's side is in the hospital in Wadawee, Alabama, right now,
Hmm.
with a broken shoulder. And the sad state of things is hospital patients can't receive visitors right now.
Right.
It is what it is. It's for the best. So they drove across the state line like an hour and a half and surprised her by standing outside of her window. They gave her a call. They said,
Oh,
"Hey, you have a window in your
yeah.
room, right?" She said, "Yeah." And my dad said, "Well, head out there." And it was all three of her children: my dad, my aunt, and my uncle, and my wife.
Hmm.
I'm not my wife, my dad's wife, who is my mom.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, they made the best of it. So I thought that was really sweet. I didn't know
That's
that they were going
great.
to do that, or I would have tried to go with them. Um, but yeah, it was a weird Mother's Day, and I'm sure it's that way for everyone this year because there are so many things that you can't do. Um,
Yep.
but we tried to make the best of it, for better or for worse, in
Yeah.
some cases. But it was nice all around. And I think that both of our descriptions are excellent examples of how our wives are crushing, like I said, crushing the mom game in ways that we are maybe not necessarily crushing the husband game right now,
Hmm.
but we're trying. So I want to kick this over to you, Brandon.
Oh,
What we
goody.
wanted to focus on at first was some of the cool things that we've seen our wives doing as moms, especially here in quarantine. So before I get into my list, what do you have on your end?
So I'm gonna do a slight deviation because I'll tell you what my wife is doing in quarantine is just kicking butt and helping people survive. So
Mm-hmm.
she's an essential worker, and so that means she's spending even less time than you might normally if you're working your regular job around the house. And so that means she's seeing our son less and getting less mom time, and that sucks. That sucks majorly. I mean, it's nice that I am here, and so I get to be, with our son and get some extra time with him. But that
Mm-hmm.
means that one of us is getting less time. So I'm fulfilling a job by kind of enabling her, but that's what she's offering right now as a great person. It has nothing to do with the mom category, really, other than, we support her being a hardworking mom
Yeah.
and a job that's tough. And so that's the part that's not great, but she doesn't complain. So that's just something that's great about her. She just does her job and she feels really good about doing her job, because it's important. It helps people. Um, and even when some people don't want to be helped, they still get helped anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an important job for people to have to put out there. So I don't know. We miss her basically,
Yeah.
and we wish she could be around and have some more of that mom time. So that's kind of the quarantine side of things. Is that she's kind of just done maybe what looks more like the normal pre-quarantine time, where
Mm-hmm.
she still comes home in the evenings. She mostly has, you know, 2 days off like a weekend, but not always on the weekend. So we're fortunate in that regard that, she still gets to be around and doing time like that. But the things that, she does great is that she's just able to use that time when she's here as if none of the other stuff is going on,
Mm-hmm.
really. The only time you get a hint of it is when somebody interrupts by doing something absurd, like calling her with a work problem. How dare they? But of course, she helps. She's a helper. She's a do-gooder, and that's just a big part of a big theme of who she is just a good person, a really nice person, somebody who's wonderfully compassionate and loving, and is just that's just her normal vibe that she puts off. Like, we all have a lot of great compassion within us, but I mean, someone who's just kind of casually doing this on a daily basis of just being a positive and friendly person. And I'm quite certain that maybe only one person in her life has ever disliked her, possibly. And I'm going to say one just because there's got to have been at least one. I'm pretty sure it's zero, but there's probably one person out there who just like thought that they saw something or said something, and that's why they hold this secret grudge that we'll never know about. But most likely zero people dislike her, in life, because she's just wonderful in that way. So that's what it is on the quarantine side of things. But my favorite capacities, about my wife, some of them are what I would call great inherited skills from mother to mother.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about Mother's Day. I'll throw a little bone to the mother-in-law, her mother, and say that, she is a wizard improviser, as you kind of mentioned with your wife. She's got this skill of like taking things, objects, sometimes no objects whatsoever, and creating a game or a variant of a game or a interesting thing to be focused on about the game. And so that's just something where I feel like you grow up knowing that you can just kind of create and be a little bit more magical and creative in that way. So is she a she played music. I'm kind of getting into some of the longer term life stuff here, but like, she played music, she can do a little bit of art. Her mom is really good at art. And so I don't know, she just has that creative bend about her where she does a really great job of kind of inventing magic, is kind of what we call it. She's good at the mommy magic,
Mm-hmm.
is what I tend to like about her. Um, and I don't know, just the happiness. There's something really nice about happy people
Yeah.
and bringing in the happiness. So I feel like I'm getting kind of swirled up in this. This is an emotional topic, but it's
Yeah.
a good topic. It makes you feel good
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it. And I also am alone, and she's not here, so I kind of miss her a little bit as I'm talking about her. But that's that's maybe the other. Not that there's only two things, but the other thing I was thinking about, um, is that one thing that's become very clear in the quarantine is that the separation is really tough. We're spending less time together as well. I talked about how she's not around as much as she would like to be as a mom, but obviously as a couple, going through life together, we're not together doing things together as much as we were, and so that's been, something that's tough. But the reason why it's tough is because we depend on that. I depend on that. I really, um, feel like that great quality is just that when we're together as a unit is when things are going really well. And we do a good job of parenting in the collective. And we've kind of had to take a look where, even when we're both here, sometimes we're trading off. Um, like, sometimes I have to work when she is here because I've been taking care of our son when she's not. And so we've been doing even more solo parenting when we're both home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great quality within there, it's the downside is real, but the upside is that there's something special about, being together and wanting to spend the time and feeling like I do better when she's with me. Um, Hopefully she does better when I'm with her. And then as well, we as the family, like we have some of our most fun when we're together as well. So I don't know. I've been thinking about that a lot of just like part of our plan was always doing things together, and we really like being together, obviously, getting married and having a kid, but that's just part of how we function really well. And so I always kind of loved the part of us where we did this together. And we're doing a little less of that, but that's something that's always been special, is just being able to do this together, being husband, wife, mom and dad together, and kind of being a couple.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a break for a minute. Let's get your thoughts, though. What
Yeah,
about that
definitely.
fabulous person you have on your side, Jesse? What can you tell us about her?
Yeah, sure. So it's interesting. The way you started this off was something I really wanted to focus on too. Something that I've gotten a big window in now that we're both working from home is the fact that I mean, our wives, and this is true for both of us, and it's really true for every husband. Our wives are not just moms. They're so much more
Yeah.
than that. And sometimes when we only see each other after hours, all we see is the wife part and the mom part. But being in the working world, there's a whole other side to their lives that I've gotten a really interesting new perspective into. My wife is
Hmm.
working from home, like me, full time, and she's a manager in her position. And she's got a lot of responsibilities for the company that she works for. And it's been just amazing to me because I'm working just across the living room from her. We're on our own
Yeah.
computers, and I'm listening in on what she's doing as I'm working. And I mean, she's on 5 to 10 conference calls a day, like with lots of
Wow.
people making important decisions that impact a lot of people. And I mean, sometimes she has to deal with difficult personalities or, I mean, really challenging problems that come up. And
Hmm. Hmm.
sometimes she has to be tough with people and push back when someone's asking for too much. And I mean, really, just what I've noticed is that she's incredible at all of that.
Right.
I mean, this is like this person who is just like a professional boss, and
Yeah.
and knows when to apply the right touch to the right situation. She knows which people you need to be kind of assertive with, and which people you need to be kind of patient and encouraging with. And that's sort of an emotional sensitivity that not everyone has. I'm not always
Hmm.
super good with that. But what's cool is that ability to kind of read the room and use the right touch with the right situation is something that extends to her parenting life as well. Um, it's what's really interesting is David, our 2 year old, when he's in a good mood, it's great and everything's nice and fun and easy. But when he's grumpy, if he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, or
Hmm.
when he wants something and you're not giving it to him, or when you want him to do something and he doesn't want to do it, um, he gets very difficult. I mean, naturally,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes it's lying on the ground and having a meltdown. Sometimes it's running away and stalling, by playing with something, pulling out a new toy. And
Right.
what my wife Ashley is really good at is applying the right parenting response to that particular situation. Whereas I have two modes. Big softy who gives my son everything he wants and is like really slow and patient and sensitive with him, and like strict totalitarian, where my answer is no.
Wow.
I don't care how much you want something because I know what's good for you, and I know that
Yep.
that thing you want is not good for you, so I'm not going to give it to you. Problem is, I don't always know which mode to go into. So sometimes it's kind of
Right.
arbitrary and it can make the situation worse. So my wife's really good at stepping into these situations and saying, okay, here's a moment where we need to be patient, and stepping in and being that soft, sensitive, loving mom, that the
Yeah.
kid needs at that time. And then sometimes where I'm being the big softy pushover, she knows to step in and say, okay, here's a moment where we need to push back, where we need to say no, where we need to give him boundaries. And I mean, it works like magic. Um, it's really impressive. And sometimes I'm able to just kind of step back and go, oh, I see what you did there. You, you read the room, you didn't just kind
Yeah.
of apply a cannon to what should have been like a little precision missile kind of strategy,
Yep. Yep.
I don't always have that kind of emotional awareness that she has, and that's something that I'm learning from her, kind of.
That's
The other
great.
thing, yeah, the other thing I wanted to touch on, which is really cool, is now that I'm home in the mornings, because I always missed mornings when I was working, I have a real appreciation for morning routines with our toddler. I now know how hard it is when David wakes up on the wrong side of the bed to get him going.
Oh yeah.
If he wakes up grouchy, uh, I mean, even getting his diaper off and getting him on the potty is like fighting a war.
Yikes.
And or getting him to eat his breakfast, and then get him out the door and get him to daycare. It's hard enough when all I have to do is do that and then come back home and work from home. I mean, I'm trying to imagine, my wife doing that at 8 o'clock in the morning, getting him to daycare on time when he doesn't want to, and then getting on the highway and trying to get to work on time when you've got meetings on your calendar for 9 a.m.
Yeah. Yep.
It can be stressful, and when it doesn't go well, it can be really frustrating. It can make you feel all sorts of negative emotions about yourself. And for a while, all I had was easy afternoons where he's done with daycare. He's in a good mood because he's been playing all day. I can hang out with him at home and just play until Mama gets home.
Yeah.
So it's given me sort of a newfound reverence for that burden
Yeah.
that my
My
wife has
gosh.
had
Yeah.
to handle in the mornings.
Yeah,
And
it's kind
then
of like that magic I was talking about. They have a way, and it's not that we have a different way. It's just that their way is very magical and very useful and very wonderful. And then hopefully we're a nice complement.
mhm.
But yeah, they got skills.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. The one last thing I wanted to touch on, which I kind of touched on earlier, is now that we're eating out less, I have an appreciation that I've always had, but I'm enjoying more of it of my wife's cooking. Um,
Hmm.
she's a boss in the kitchen. She's coming up with, I mean, she's planning out the week,
Yeah.
because you have to now when we go shopping. You're only going to go shopping once for the
Right.
week or for
Right.
2 weeks or whatever. So she's like, okay, Monday we're going to have this. Wednesday we're going to cook that. We're going to live off the leftovers in between. And she's coming up with really creative recipes. If it were left to me, it would probably be spaghetti every night and
Yep.
maybe a rotisserie chicken that's ready to go from Kroger or something like that.
Yep.
But she's mixing it up, and she's making sure that the vegetables are there and that we're also having stuff that is fun for David to eat. Although he's still in that
Hmm.
picky phase where you can give him something that should be amazing in theory and he still won't eat it.
Yep. Yep.
But I mean, the fact that she is coming up with all of that stuff on top of being a full-time working manager
Right.
is something that I know I would not succeed at in the same way. And I don't know. I just think that's totally awesome.
Yeah, I'll even tell you, because my wife has been working so much, and she's been working probably more equivalent to a 60-hour week because of her essential job. She hasn't been able to do a lot of the planning that she does, and so I've been in charge of most meals. And let's just say there's been some lack. It's been lacking
Hmm.
since I've taken over, and no shock there. But yeah, I do love that about my wife as well. Like I feel like I have a good skill set of being able to make a way of playing and having fun and like being a really great, you know, um, dad and finding that bond. But my wife, very similar to what you're talking about with your wife, is just a total boss at planning, researching, preparing, having all this knowledge and information, legitimate research, if we will say that,
Hmm.
about our kids, about their development, about what we should be thinking about. And I think that the best that can be said for me is that I do a fine job of listening to her when she tells me what she knows.
Yeah.
And then I try to translate it as best I can into the actual function. Maybe I'm a good executor. They're good quarterbacks. We're good executors, or they're good. Um, we have this thing in our house where she's the chef, I'm the sous chef. Like we've got aprons that literally say that because we're just cute that way. But that's kind of how it feels on a daily basis, and I think that's the quality that we're both proud of with our wives is that yeah, they know how to kick butt and take the lead in a lot of stuff, and we're reap the benefits of how well prepared they are. And then you and I, we do an okay job of not messing it up.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
So now let's dig into some origin stories. Not to make ourselves out to be comic book heroes, which we may feel like sometimes, but we're definitely not. Let's take a minute and go back to the beginning. You and I, Brandon, we have kind of similar situations where we were in long relationships with the women who became our wives before we got married.
Yep.
Mine is kind of fun in that my wife and I are something rare these days. We were high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even a phrase you don't hear much anymore.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So we actually had known each other since junior high. We went to the same middle school in the suburbs of Georgia, but we weren't really friends until probably our sophomore, junior year of high school. We had some of
Okay.
the same classes, but she was in the marching band and I was in the art classes, so we never really had a chance to kind of cross paths. But we
Yeah.
had some mutual friends that decided to play matchmaker with us the summer before senior year.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of cute. So they would text me, hey, do you want to go, see a movie as a group? And then the other one would text my wife, and then we would all
There you
meet up
go.
together, and they would try and kind of push us to sit, in the seats next to each other in the movie theater.
Amazing. Like, oh, hey guys, there's these two seats right here. You guys want to fill those in?
Yeah, yeah, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
So, that slowly happened. And then they started asking, hey, are you interested in Ashley? And by that time I was, I had gotten to know her and I gotten to know how awesome she was. And, they were like, okay, well, maybe you should ask her to the homecoming dance. And,
There you go.
yeah, and that was the beginning of it. Gosh, take you back. That was like August 2007. I asked Ashley to homecoming, and she said she'd think about it. And
Nice.
yeah, and then
Nice.
she said yes. I asked her.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, exactly. Right. This could have gone a totally different direction.
I know.
And the story that follows is going to be different depending on who you ask. I have one version of it. Ashley has another version of it.
Oh
My
boy.
version is that I texted her mid September 2007 and said, hey, would you like to go see a movie, this weekend? And she said yes. And I went and picked her up and we had a wonderful time. Ashley's version of the story, which I continue to dispute to this day, is that I texted her and said, hey, let's do a group thing this weekend. Let's go out, let's all go out. I think we're going to go together and see this new Jodie Foster movie, The Brave One. And that when I picked her up and she said, where is everybody? I said, everybody dropped out. It's crazy, but let's just still go, you and
Oh,
me. I don't
excellent.
remember it that way. It could have gone that way. I'm not disputing that
Yeah.
that's something that I had the potential to do because I was too
Hmm.
nervous to just upfront ask her out. But I don't think it happened that way.
I don't, her side of this is sounding really good. And if I know a little bit about you guys, I'm gonna trust her memory over yours. And that's just some honesty there.
I
But
see
yeah,
how it
that
is.
that that version of the story is great because it's like just going even further into like the rom-com tropes
Yeah.
of like, ooh, I'll do a group ask and then like, oh, everyone's busy, sorry, because we're all in high school, we're so busy.
It is a plausible tale of events. I'll give you that. Um, so that was our first date. It was cute in that we actually ran into my grandmother at the movie theater, who was there to see the
Oh my
same
gosh.
movie with a friend of hers. I think she was spying
Oh
on me. I
no.
think that's what it
You're
was.
in the same theater with them? Oh God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I met her dad when I picked her up. His first words to me were, "Hi, Jesse. I just want you to know I own a gun and I'm not afraid to go back to prison." Um, which is
Classic. He actually did that. It wasn't just a joke.
exactly. Again, this is not
Wow.
just something that happens in the movies. This was something that was literally said to me.
Also,
He played the tough guy because at the
yeah.
time, I mean, I had long, shaggy hair and a really long beard. I was 17, but I probably looked 25 or 26, and that maybe, I was,
Yikes.
on the street corner on the weekend selling pot or something. I wasn't, but
Yeah.
I just had that appearance about me. So,
Yep.
we started dating from there. We had our first kiss at the county fair, in typical rom-com fashion.
Oh my God. I'm loving this as it unfolds. This is great.
Yeah, it is. Dated through high school. We went to colleges that were right down the street from each other, Georgia State University and Georgia Tech. So we dated throughout college. And then junior year of college, we'd been together for 3.5 years or so. And I decided it was time to pop the question. Like I was sure, okay, this is the person
Yeah.
that I'm in love with, that I want to spend the rest of my life with. Let's lock this in and make it
Do
official.
it. Put a ring on it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, it was a fun. I always like to tell the proposal story because I'm proud of it, honestly. Like, I feel like it was kind of
You
fun.
should be.
And
This is our time to shine. You
exactly,
gotta win this one.
got to brag on it a little bit. So, I was a film major at Georgia State, so I had access to cameras and editing equipment, and I recruited all of our mutual friends and family to make a short movie. And that would be the proposal. So I traveled around the state of Georgia. I got friends who were out of state to send me videos, and like I wrote a full script and had each of them sort of write one word of it on a piece of paper, and
Mm-hmm.
it went, shot by shot, asking the question. Put it all together, rented out our student movie theater, and told her, hey,
Wow.
I made a movie that's going to be in this little film festival. I made up a film festival
Excellent.
and got her to come to the movie theater. Little did she know I had invited all of those same friends and family members to surprise
Yep.
us at the movie theater. The movie comes on screen. She figures out what's happening. She starts to cry. About halfway through, in the dark room, I get out of my seat, grab the ring, that I had my friend hold on to,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
pop the question. And it was one of those, I don't know. It was a classic moment, and it's something that I still kind of treasure looking back on and get some, feel some emotions about.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean the rest is history. I mean, I attribute the fact that we've stayed together over the years to the fact that she is incredibly patient with me, where probably a lot of people would not be. And
Mm-hmm.
it's you hit the sweet spot when you have someone that complements you. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have what you don't have, and you can learn from them, and vice versa. We've been incredibly. I mean, it's like any relationship. There's highs and lows, and you make mistakes and you make up for them. But we've learned from each other. I mean, I've learned a lot more from her, than she maybe has learned from me. But I've
That's
become
okay to say. Yeah.
exactly sure. Why not? I've become an adult, and learned how to manage things that in the past maybe I just let slide. Um,
Yep.
and it's hard to put into words, but here we are. Gosh, it's 2020,
13
13
years later.
years
Yeah.
being together, and I'm sorry. Awkward silence is that I'm trying to put it into words. I'm happier with the me that I am today than the me that I was 13 years ago, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah. The kid
attribute
in the
that
street corner. Yeah.
exactly to having a person who saw that potential in me, to become a more whole and capable person, and helped me grow into that. Um, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Like now I am, becoming the dad that I want to be, and, the husband that I'm trying to be. And yeah. So,
I'm over here. There's like a tissue box adjacent. I'm
mhm,
just like, come on,
come on.
this is, it's good stuff.
Yeah. All right. So, Brandon, I'm going to kick it over to you. That is my origin story. What was it like? What is the story at Brandon and Austin?
Oh boy, you got to follow that act. I mean, that was just all positives. And then I'm going to come in with this story. Uh, no, it's a nice story. I want to give an homage to a podcast I enjoy called The Dollop. And part of it, it's a history-based podcast where they always talk about like a person and they do like their full background. So I thought because we're going to do the background on our lives, I would start it in a similar way. So it was May 2009. They always shout the date at the beginning of the
Aha.
episode. That's when we started dating. But before we get to the dating, we need to talk about the meetup, right? Because that was what was incredible. So we grew up in the same state and kind of in a similar area, but far enough separated where I was more in the suburbs, kind of like what you were talking about, where you guys grew up. And she was a little closer to the city. So we didn't have any way of crossing paths really until we got to college. We both went to Georgia Tech and we met on the second day ever. So
Mm.
my roommate is the one that was the connection point. And on the second day, we went to, I want to say it was the freshman donut social. And I'm not making this up. Freshman week, there's always random things going on. And I'm pretty sure the second day was the donut social. And so we're just milling about eating these free donuts. And I'm pretty sure, some girls walk over to me and my roommate and some of our friends who were there. And it was just like, oh, hey, I know so and so, because she had gone to like pre before the fall semester kicked things off, she was there for some classes over the summer as kind of like part of the lead up. And so she'd actually already been in college, on campus, however you want to frame it, and had met my roommate who had done the same. And so they had a pre-existing friendship there. And so I just was lucky enough to be someone who knew someone. And that's how that started. So we met on day two. And then this is where it gets really interesting and really special. Special in the sense that it has a nice ending, and special in the sense that I'm a complete moron, as most people are when they start thinking about dating, or in my case, not thinking about dating whatsoever.
I gotta
So
hear this.
just to be, truthful about it, she had a liking of me off the bat. I'm not going to say it happened on day one, but I'm just going to say that there was some interest there. And I was doing that thing where I was thinking, like, listen, I'm too cool. I don't need to be tied down. I'm a free man. I'm a freshman in college. Bountiful amounts of women are out there, right? As we all think. You're fortunate, Jesse, just because you got things rolling before college, so you didn't have any of these stupid ideas rolling
Yeah.
around in your head. You were already locked up, so good on you and Ashley. I was a moron, as I've mentioned, and I was just like, I'm playing the field. I'm all about all the options that are available to me, and so I was stupid in that way. And so basically, she and I had a God, the story is so bad. I can't even. So let's just say we had a moment, we had an encounter, and we had a coming together moment where you would normally think that would then lead into a good relationship starting, right?
Hmm.
No, I thought I was, again, so cool and had bountiful options that I was like, listen, even though we may have gotten together and made out or something, I'm gonna once again just say no. We're not gonna do anything about that. I'm just gonna ignore you completely. No joke. Just ignore you completely and
Wow.
just keep going on with my life. So this is a really good story. I got to tell you. Thank God we are where we are, because otherwise this would just be the worst story ever.
Hmm.
So yeah, I rejected essentially my future wife, and we just went on about our business. And thank goodness we went on hanging out together and being a part of the friend group, because men are slow. I needed a lot of time to understand how stupid I was and get over that. So only by the fact that we had spent 4 months hanging out up until that point, and then we spent another 4 months in the spring semester. It took me that whole year almost to kind of realize what I was actually doing was stupid, and that I was actually very interested. And then I came to my senses. It just took me a long time. I was a slow learner, and I picked it up, and it just kind of became very apparent to me, or at the time, what felt very apparent, right? Of that we spend a lot of time together, we have fun together, we hang out a lot, we enjoy spending time together. Um, One on one, we would do things together, even though we weren't dating or a couple. And it just was like, oh, okay, wait a minute, this feels good. I'm happy. Like all these common, hallmarks of a relationship that I was not actually in a relationship. And so that is when I decided that I had been very stupid up until this point. And I think it would probably be a better idea if we actually did have a relationship and we did start dating. So I got there in the end, guys. It took me a year. I like to say it took me a year, but I made the right decision. And I figured things out. And I am properly embarrassed by it, but at the same time, I think we all need to learn. So it's clearly okay, I think, to learn and figure it out as long as you figure it out. And I'd like to think I figured it out. So by the end of freshman year, we finally started dating. The last day of the freshman year was our first date, May 1st, 2009. We got the ball rolling. Finally, we had our first date, and then we just progressed through the next 3 years of college. And so we were together pretty much the whole time. We weren't dating at all that first year, but we were friends the entire time, and we hung out the entire time. So we were basically together all throughout college, um, and continuing onward. And so our story then kind of transitions when we graduated. We'd been together for 3 years. That's At that time, it feels like a long time. And you had done that for 4, almost 5 years even, right? And so
Hmm.
it feels like quite a long time at that point. And so you have to start asking yourself, is this the one? Is this the thing? After 3 years, I was like, this is pretty much the one. This is pretty much the thing. Like this is as good as it gets. This is great. And so our proposal, I would like to brag on as well. Thank you for the idea, because I like it as well. It's a good story, and I am proud of what I managed to pull off as well. I'm not creative like you. My creativity was basically coming up with a very elaborate one moment, um, kind of off the cuff, um, in a sense that we both went to school together. And so that place held a lot of memories for us. So our first year after graduating, we both went back to live with our families because we had no money. And we were trying to figure out how to get jobs and things like that. And she was going on to get a master's. So she was back in school again. And I was starting my first job, as an intern. And so, we were dating while being more separated than we'd ever been.
Hmm.
And so I knew that we were going to get married and we're going to bring it together. And the way we kind of planned it, we're planners, right? Like we know if you're going to ask somebody to marry you, like they should probably know that you're going to ask them to marry them, right? They're not going to know the date. You should keep a little bit of secrecy, right, Jesse? But like
Yeah,
they should know, right? Like Ashley wouldn't have been surprised that you proposed to her, right? Like she would know it's kind of it's
exactly.
on
They should be on the same page there at least.
it's on the table, right? You want to be on the same, you want to be sure about this. So yeah, we talked about it a lot, and we kind of had felt like, okay, she's doing 2 years of a master's, like maybe midway through is kind of a good point in time. And so in the lead up to that, and I had this idea of how I was going to propose. There was a specific point on campus. There's like a little kind of hidden garden at this one point where it's weirdly like right in the middle of everything, but it's kind of sunken down, and you kind of walk down, and then like you're in this like really small but like kind of almost enclosed garden area oasis or whatnot. And
Yeah.
so I was like, all right, I got the location in mind. Now, how do I get the girl there? So I just kind of tricked her into meeting my dad for dinner, as you do. And so I was like, we're going to meet him downtown for dinner. My dad works downtown in Atlanta, so this makes sense. This is all the things I'm thinking. And the key, of course, is that we're not meeting him at all. But I said that we were. So we travel downtown and we show up early, conveniently. And I'm just like, oh, like, he's not going to meet us for like another 15 or 30 minutes. Why don't we just walk around campus, just to kill some time? Eh? Eh? Eh?
Hmm.
Okay. And so we're walking around campus, and I've called a buddy of mine from my fraternity, and I've been like, I need help. I need to make sure that no one is around for this to happen, because you don't want somebody interrupting your proposal. And so I call him, and I get the guards set up, essentially. And only after the effect did I find out that they did actually have to kick somebody out of the garden so that it would be empty, so that we could be there. So thank you for doing that. And we showed up, and we just kind of strolled in, and we're sitting on this bench. She has no idea this is coming. It's in the middle of the fall, but it's Georgia, so it's not cold whatsoever. And I'd brought a jacket for some reason, under the auspices of in case someone gets cold. But there was no need for a jacket. The jacket existed solely to transport the ring without being obvious. So I'm holding this jacket kind of football style, if you will, so that nothing touches the ring and nothing it happens where I could lose it. Um, I don't know how you hide a ring box, guys. Like it's big. I don't know how you hide it. So
It's
that's what
not
I had
easy.
to do. You had to have a giant jacket. I don't know how else to do it. So I'm sitting there with this giant jacket, and we're in this place, and she doesn't know why. And I popped the question, and she was completely surprised and said yes. And there you have it. And it went on beautifully from there. And then the way in which I make the day better is that, I don't know about you. I'm curious to get your take on this, but I knew I had to get permission. I knew I had
Yes.
to get permission to ask her, to marry me from various family
Hmm.
members. There's a very big contingent of mothers in her family. Speaking of Mother's Day, and so I had to get permission from multiple people. So um, I'm going to say that from my perspective, I didn't want anyone to leak the news.
Hmm.
So I called everyone the day of the proposal to get permission.
Wow, that is ballsy.
I went all in on this. Like I was 100%, this was the way to go, and this is what I was doing. And so my version is that that's why I did it. And there's definitely not a version where I kind of pulled this out of my back pocket of picking the day kind of arbitrarily. It totally was on purpose, guys. There was tons of planning. And so I called her mom and was like, "Hey, can you meet me for coffee?" We've never had coffee together ever. We've spent time together plenty of times, of course, but we've never had coffee together. We've never done anything one on one. Thank God her mother is so wonderful. And I love her, in a lot of ways. And one of the reasons is because she just heard that request from me and said, "Sure, when can I meet you?" And we met. And I told her why we were there. And, she was crying and I was crying. And then we just kind of went from there. So thankfully, she did not mind being asked day of. Thankfully, no one minded being asked day of. I couldn't track everyone down in person. I probably could have. Again, guys, if I had planned it differently, I probably could have gotten physical permission. So I just called people and asked them for permission over the phone, like the dad and other various family members. So I called 6 people. I just want you to know there was a number, there was a head count.
Yeah.
There was a quorum I had to achieve. Thankfully, everyone said yes and didn't mind that I was asking them the day of.
Wow.
And then they also didn't mind that I asked them to participate in a surprise, kind of like what you were talking about. So I thought I would propose, she would say yes. Obviously, the saying yes was critical. And then we would go to dinner because I'm big on like having moments together, like just us moments. And then doing something with family and then doing something with our son or whatever it is. Like I think it's important to do like us moments. And so I wanted to take her out myself. And then I knew family was really important. And so we went to dessert to a special place after, and that's where everyone was waiting for us, to share in the celebration. So I called everyone, got permission, and invited them to a surprise dessert that same evening that thank God they all agreed to show up to. So that's pretty much it. That's how I bagged it.
Man.
I think I nailed it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I say it. The surprise is what's most important. But
Absolutely.
I think we did a good job. So yes, I love my wife. I'm very fortunate that she stuck it out with me. And you said that your wife, learns to, live with you and adapt with you and help groom you. And I'm just thankful that in that first year before we even started dating, my wife was willing to let me learn and grow and adapt so that I could actually muster up the knowledge that I should be asking her out, and we could actually have a life together after that.
Yeah. Aren't they amazing at that? At just that patience. It's insane.
Just kind of knowing it, and we didn't know anything.
Yeah. Exactly. So what's cool is it was a small detail in your story, but I think it's something that I can relate to. That wanting to do things just the two of you, but also recognizing that family is important. That's kind of a big part of our relationship that started. I mean, it happened before we got married, but especially since we've gotten married and our lives have gotten bigger and involved more people, and now our son as well, is finding those little alone moments. So one tradition that we have is if we are going out with friends, or if we are having just a big event gathering, especially if we're going to be in the city in Atlanta. We've got a favorite little pizza spot in Atlanta called Fellini's, that is always open super late at night, like 2, 3 a.m. So if we are going to a wedding, if we are, meeting up with some friends, which, for like an event in the city or something, we'll make sure that we make time to head to Fellini's afterwards, no matter how late it is at night. And, maybe split a calzone, have some sodas, and just kind of chat and just be, not mom and dad for the night, not, part of our extended lives, but just be us, just be that husband and wife pair that we've been now for 13 years. Well, including the dating scene.
Yeah. I gotcha.
Yeah, it's important, to kind of, because I mean, we are now all of these things, and we love all of those things about each other. I love the mom that I'm married to, the wife, the manager, and just the person. But it also helps to kind of segment those things and look at them individually. Because I mean, the reality is we're all a million different identities in one person. And I don't know, I got lucky and that I love all of those personalities and all of those
Yeah.
identities, in the person that I am forever linked to.
Exactly. And that's the entire theme that strings this entire relationship for me, is that when I'm with her, I just feel very good. There's just a wonderful, effect of the presence of being together. And, when you're in college and you're dating, that's normal. But then when you're dating for keeps, that's a little less normal. And even for you in high school, even less normal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Dating for what ends up being for keeps, even back into high school, and like that's a little unusual. But you, you, you and me, or I'll at least speak for me. Like we just very quickly settle into this. Like we're a unit, we're a couple, we're two people together that work and really enjoy being together. And it's just that simple sometimes, that just that act of being a unit and being a literal couple is what made us really happy, and we just exist very well together and we work very well together. And that's one of my most special things, is just that things are better when we're together.
So that'll do it for this week's episode of Dadsplaining. Thanks, y'all, as always, for sticking with us and hanging out and listening along with us. Between this week and next week, Brandon, if our listeners would like to reach out to us with questions or comments, to be a guest on the show, or just to share their own, new parent stories and baby photos and all that fun stuff, where can they find us?
Please give us a like or a follow on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Dadsplaining Podcast. You can send us an email at dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com, and then you can catch this and every episode anywhere you get your podcasts.
Exactly. We publish those podcasts usually every Monday morning. This past week it was on a Tuesday. But subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is for us, for you. Please leave us a rating and a review, especially on Apple Podcasts, so that we can grow and reach more parents. I also want to give a shout out to our group, Dadsplaining, a parenting group on Facebook. Just give it a search and you'll find us. We are currently, I think, 65 members strong. We would love to have all of you join us and share photos and silly parenting memes and ask questions and suggest topics for the show. It's a good place for all of that fun stuff. So next week is going to be kind of interesting. We have been invited to write a blog for the company How to Conquer. They published the book that we interviewed the author Leslie Grant Smith for a few weeks back. And next week we are going to kind of hash out what we're going to write in that blog. We're going to talk about how running this podcast has influenced our parenting lives and changed the way that we are dads. So should be a lot of fun, but I'll have a lot to think about and a lot to talk about. And until then, I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brandon.
And Brandon, did you hear that they have been testing marijuana on cows?
No, how's it going for them?
Well, the stakes have never been higher. Sorry, I was really proud of that one because I tested it out on my wife earlier this week, and she didn't know that I was setting it up as a joke. She thought it was a real story.
And, a news story?
Exactly. So anyway, pretty proud of that. Thanks, folks. We will see you next week. The advice and opinions expressed on Dadsplaining are solely those of its hosts and guests and should not be substituted for the advice of professionals. If you have a serious concern about the health or development of your child, please consult with your pediatrician. If you're experiencing an emergency, please call 911. Don't listen to us. We're really just good for dad jokes. If you're enjoying Dadsplaining, you might enjoy this other podcast from our friends here at WSB Radio.
Hello, friends. This is Jared Yamamoto from the Power Pod, and we are a weekly recap show where we cover the current events of the week. And of course, during these times, COVID-19 is on everybody's mind. We will cover the good, the bad, and the ugly regarding this crisis. We will be serious with the coronavirus, but we will also find ways to have fun with it as well. So be sure to check us out Saturdays from 11 to noon and Sunday mornings from 9 to 11 on 98.7 FM and AM 1340 WGAU, or grab the Power Pod podcast on any of your favorite podcast providers or your favorite smart speaker.